Hello, my friends, and welcome to Tata Steel Chess 2024. This is an enormous super tournament, super event held in Wijk aan Zee, Netherlands. We've got the Masters section and the Challengers section. So the Masters is all your household names. Got Vidit here, Nepomniachtchi, Prague, Firouzja, Giri. We have, as the title and thumbnail suggest, the return of world champion Ding Liren, who's been missing for about 250 days through various illnesses and other issues. This is his real first test back since winning the world championship, which feels so long ago. And of course, the challengers section we've got Hans Niemann, Mustafa Yilmaz, Helene Robers, Salem Saleh, all kinds of people. So, no better place to start than round one, Masters section. Vidit Santosh Gujarati, who has qualified for the candidates and will be hoping to play Ding in a match presumably later this year, should he win. And of course, one Ding to rule them all, Ding Liren. We start out as a Nimzo Indian. This is the Kmoch variation. Kind of course, just sort of Queen's Gambit decliney, I guess, is it's pretty basic stuff. Already pretty combative stuff here from Ding. All things considered, I mean, playing a Nimzo from the get-go is interesting, but here, a willingness for structural damage in the aid of trying to open these files up and launch an attack. But it jumps forward with knight e4. And we get some trades, and then b5 breaking out from Ding. Not the most accurate move, but not a bad move by any means. Vidit takes. Computer wanted b3, which I guess is understandable. You want to try and maintain this pass pawn and really keep your structure intact. But okay, Vidit takes. Ding takes back. Chop down here, and then we snatch the pawn. Ding obviously giving this up because he didn't like the threat of the pass pawn, and he was right to take that prudent approach. And he chopped these down, whilst this is incredibly weak. So, Queen b8. a4 now, gluing that knight in. Rook slides forward, and we pick up this pawn. Even material, but this is definitely a practical advantage. Because if you get these, especially with fewer pieces on the board, it's going to be pretty drawish. I mean, if you've just got rooks, then, you can shake hands straight away. Queens come off now. c4 now from Ding. Again, not the most accurate, but only a slight twinge. It's hard to see why. That pawn is hit. You can guard it, but it temporarily, as we mentioned, this impeccable structure, just two passed pawns. Knight b6, of course, is a nice move. Cash in here. b3 to keep the pawn alive. The knight jumps in. And folks, I think you can see where this is going. Yeah, they just agree a draw. Both guys played at a 92% accuracy, but all things considered, Vidit's a good, strong player. Ding with the black pieces in his first game back. Pretty good showing. A few little inaccuracies, a few little weaknesses, but the guy's just warming up, cut him some slack. So now we head over to the challenger section, and obviously the challengers slightly lower rated average field. Obviously Niemann is probably strong enough to play in the Masters, but he needs to earn that place. If you win the challenger section, you get a ticket to the Masters. Alexander Donchenko did this last year, and now he is in the Masters. So where you have this sort of sophisticated, all slight centi-pawn advantage and all this frilly stuff in the Masters, the challengers is a lot more locking loads of monkeys in a room and just watching them throw poo at each other. There's so many more decisive games on the whole because the slightly less inaccurate play compared to the Masters section. And that's not a criticism by any means. I mean, I'm sure any of these guys could could beat me with their eyes shut 100 times over, and it wouldn't mean anything to them. But anyway, from the get-go, we get quite a normal sort of, just to wind it back, quite a normal Italian game. Niemann opting for the knight f1, knight g3 route, which is very common in these kind of e4, e5 positions, especially in the Spanish and the Italian, obviously, here. It's quite a common idea to try and reroute this knight around, because if it just sits around in the middle of the board here, it doesn't actually have a lot of scope. It doesn't really do a whole lot. d5 now, chop down, we hit the free knight, and nice take here from Vrolik, obviously hitting this knight. So we take in with the rook, knight g6, bishop d3, bishop d5, slightly inaccurate, but nothing to be capitalized on. And this is what I'm talking about with the monkey analogy, because h4 from Hans, Liam Vrolik just goes, well, okay, f5 then. We back up. And now f4. They're just in this little, like, telephone box, just swinging at each other. Now, position here demands knight e4 is the only move. Don't ask me why. And here Vrolik goes bishop d4. Not ideal. I assume, well, first off, Hans plays the only move in response, queen c2. All good so far. Might well not be clear to you or I why this is so good, but I suppose, you know, yes, it's a free pawn, but these files are just, you know, you've got so much control. The knight's in the center of the board, whereas your bishop and knight are a bit disjointed. It's just too much pressure to sustain, it seems. Queen c2 is an obvious threat. h6 now. Cash in on the pawn. And here, again, an only move. Go straight back to where you were. It's hard. It can be hard to commit to those moves sometimes. You've just moved your queen all the way up. Sometimes you don't quite think or acknowledge to just bring it straight back. I know I certainly don't. Well, here it is, the only move to maintain a winning advantage. If we just look at the clocks for a second, I mean, Hans has used up half an hour. It's a slightly weird time control, but Hans has used half an hour. Liam Vrolik is down to 11 minutes. I mean, this is just insane. Queen c6. And you see the eval bar shoot up there. White to play and win. Take, and rook d2. This bishop is being hit. You can't defend it. If you slide a rook across, Hans can do the same. You're in a no better position than you were before. You try and lock it in, or you can just take the pawn because there's a pin, and you're hitting the rook. And there's a fork here, so let's say maybe you go here. And, well, you can even just do this. d4. Here. Doesn't matter. Liquidate the whole position. 2 horses are better than 1 is the message here. So, an excellent first round win for Hans. There was many winners in the challengers section, but Jordan Van Forest versus Alireza Firouzja. Now, Van Forest has won this tournament before. Obviously, with it being held in the Netherlands, they invite a lot of Dutch players. So, obviously, you've got Geary is in there, Van Forest, Max van Madam. In the challengers section, Erleen Robers, and any other Dutch players? I'm not sure. But Van Forest has won this tournament before, so you may look at his rating and think, oh, he's cannon fodder, he doesn't stand a chance, but believe me, this guy is good. And obviously Alireza Firouzja, another candidate. This is what makes it so exciting, is actually seeing these candidate contenders battling each other. The candidates is only in March. You know, we're not far away at all. We get opposite side castling already. Pretty exciting stuff. And from the get-go, it looks pretty equal. I mean, it's hard to really say who's better or worse in this position. A lot of pieces fly off the board. Van Forest has this nice pass pawn here. Bruges, bit of weakness over here, but it's hard to capitalise on yet again. Rook d1. No threat of a pin on the back there. He still goes in for it anyway. e5. King b3. e4 crashing through. Knight d2. King e7. Rook a8. Not blundering his rook. Bishop c6. You take this pawn. I mean, the computer finds a way for black to be ever so slightly better, but optically speaking, I mean, who wouldn't want the white pieces here? Look at these pawns. King is active, and cut the black king off. Obviously not there immediately, but the idea is simple. This pawn, you've committed it forward. It's going to take you a moment to really load up on it to try and protect it. You get rook a6, king c7, rook a7, king d8, king c3. Rook takes f2 now, knight b3, e3. And, okay, the position is scary, actually. I mean, now that you've allowed f2 to fall, this is all incredibly weak with the scope of the bishop here. Computer wants the only move of king d3, so that if you see e2, you can come king d2, and you're always there to meet. You can get to the promotion square, you can play knight d4, and you should be okay, really, because there isn't enough time for, you know, for Firouzja to try and load up on this pawn and keep it alive. And then in the meanwhile, there's probably some checks you can deliver or whatever. Van Forest goes knight d4, and then after the only move response, bishop e5, just stares at the board with his head in his hands. He can't believe it. Just to sort of delineate the point, I guess, is now the threat of e2 is a problem because, I mean, this king is already cut off. The idea of knight d4 was you go e2 off the rip, you can just cash in here, king c8, and then you can bring yourself along to e7, or obviously if here, then rook e7 all the same. And you're going to be watching this pawn, you're going to promote your own, you're going to win the game. Happy days. The trouble with bishop e4 now, you can't really stop this pawn. Van Forest goes c5, trying to generate some counterplay. But Firouzja just wins the game after rook d2, because what do you actually do in this position? Okay, I mean, yeah, probably could play on a little bit. It's not immediately clear. Certainly I would find a way to lose this with both colours, but, you know, you probably play rook d1, and then the king just can't crash through, and this pawn is going to go. Or maybe you would sack the exchange and then go. Anything like that. Just, again, to highlight it, if you go rook a4, obviously this is the threat. You could go rook d3, king b2, and then computer wants, what does computer want? Once you go back to rook d2, or you can go f5, yeah, and then you can just mow your way down. A tough loss for Jordan, it really is. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Now, the aforementioned Max Varmadam has the white pieces against World Championship challenger twice, Jan Nepomniachtchi. I mean, a terrifying thought, really. And obviously, Jan, coming off the back of all this, chess.com controversy of making that Dubov-esque draw again. He did it against Hikaru. It's all been kicking off, but already, I mean, just look at the mobilization of the pieces. Farmadam castles, and he wastes no time at all lashing his rook over. I imagine he just, smashed the clock in and punched a hole in it. G3, H5 now, unrelenting, and rook d4 from Varmadam is the first mistake. Allowing the only moves, queen c6. This knight is going to wreak havoc. And this battery here, it's just unstoppable. It might not look like much now, but believe you me, it's ridiculous. Rook h4. As mentioned, the knight jumps in. The rook comes across. Queen c1. Not the correct defense. You can maybe try king f2. Try and slither out of there, but here, we take the rook. Takes with the pawn, because obviously don't do this. Not mate just yet, but well on its way. Knight b3, queen c3, cash in on a pawn, queen f6, rook g8 check, and just look at this dominant display. I mean, material's completely equal, but it's not really, is it? Rook d8 and Varmadam just resigns. Again, another clock masterclass. Jan, notoriously fast player, still with an hour on his clock. Varmadam, just 11 minutes. Again, tough. Really, really tough. Playing someone, some 150 points is superior. Varmadam only young as well. It is difficult. It is so difficult. Now we get to our final game. We have current world champion, Zhu Wenjun, facing last year's winner, Anish Giri. An exciting matchup because obviously it's nice that they are integrating the groups as such. The Challengers section has Divya Deshmuth, Robers, and Dronavali. So there's three women in that field, and then the Masters has Zhu Wenjun. It's hard to... You can maybe look at her with a 25-49 rating and think, well, she doesn't belong here, she's not good enough. It's so difficult when you're only really competing against women. Because you're bound to, make draws and your rating will, slip and slide and all that kind of stuff. She has a very good opportunity here to gain a lot of points. I mean, Giri's 200 points higher rated than her. But as you'll see, there's not that much of a sort of gulf in class between them, you could say. It's good that these opportunities are afforded, because how will we really know how good these women players are if we don't put them in against the strongest and the best? And Giri is certainly that. Already we get quite a flashy Sicilian, lashing out with a4. And already here, when Zhu Wenjun's position is pretty good. I mean, the commentators were looking at this like, what's Giri doing? Allowing a knight in, or it can be chopped off now, but that only helps the bishop get open. So Giri obviously doesn't take. En passant, and knight e7, we finally cash in because we have bishop a3. And Zhu Wenjun is up in exchange. I mean, okay, it's not immediately clear that this is winning, but this is undeniable. Zhu Wenjun is up in exchange against Anish Giri. Just like that. Bishop c6, h3, weird move. I'm looking at it now, actually it's the only move. That's just incredible. Okay. Okay. And here goes queen c5. I mean, plus 1.5 is already basically winning. I mean, this is incredible. 200 point rating difference, and Zhu Wenjun is just playing with confidence and flair. Now, gotta go knight b3. Obviously, if you take here, then take here first. Pick up. Nice stuff. Or if queen c3, then you probably go rook a5, I would guess. Take knight a5, queen a5, and you've got the rook for the two pieces. No, no, sorry. You've got the rook versus the knight. You just have to chop this pawn off, and then you're undoubtedly better here, aren't you? Bishop f1, perhaps. Just trying to apply some pressure. You certainly can't lose that position. But we get queen f2 and, oh no, sorry, we get queen d3, then queen f2 is now allowed. The threat of just chopping the whole house down. Now rook b2, not the most ideal response. King h7, and we just see, again, mobilization. Trying to chop away, queens come off. This is wrong from Geary. Again, queen e3 allows another opportunity, this time one that Ju Wenjun seizes. Here, again, it was sort of only move business. Rather than put the queen there, to put the knight there instead. Even then, the eval bar is a bit confused on what's going on. It's a tricky position. We get this. Rook e2. Seems like the advantage is blown again. Now, this time, it was knight c5. And then after, let's say, knight g2, can't even take back because of knight e4. Oh, Jesus, okay. So instead, that's what I'm saying about how tricky this is. I can't understand this. For this, you have to go rook e2 to protect this. The knight is actually trapped as well, so that's how that is sustained. And something like g6, fg6, king takes, and then even then king g2 isn't the best move, but you can play it now. Just ridiculous, but alright. After this, we see rook d3 from Geary, knight c5, chin on a pawn. But, of course, I mean, how's Geary going to get his exchange back? So here, you're to take on b3, knight b3, knight g2. Can you really go king g2? Not really. Can't really, again, you can't really take. Once knight c5 again to kind of guard this and restart the whole process. Just a nightmare fuel position, it really is. Why you shouldn't trust a computer when it says the position's equal. All it's doing is like just doing this little symbol monkey thing, just spinning backwards, you know, like in the Simpsons movie, and Homer just ain't thinking. That's what Stockfish is doing right now. Instead, of course, we get knight g4, as anyone would. Really don't know. Geary just kind of trying anything at this point, I'm not sure. Sacks and then takes here. But of course, I mean, the pawn structure is haphazard at best. Still up in exchange. That pawn crumbles. But we cash in here. Who is better in this endgame? I mean, it's not certain, is it? These pawns can just be chopped away at some moment. The bishop actually could have some good defensive uses if you can actually build a light squared kind of complex here. Let's see. f6. Geary building on the dark squares instead. Here. Here is where Ju Wenjun takes. It's a viable option. because now you're only a pawn down in a rook game. But is this a sign that the pressure was getting a bit too much? 14 minutes spent, and then takes here when there's other options. You could go. What could you do? Maybe you could go rook b7, for example. Oh, he doesn't like it too much. No, it's fine. It's fine actually. Don't worry about it. Rook b7. Yeah, you can just keep the rooks on the board and just try and maintain the pressure. Okay, if this is a passed pawn, but how far is it really going to go when you've got two rooks? You can even just set up like some drawing net if that's what you're really aiming for. Zhu Wenjun takes. Opts for this. Okay, you know, put Stockfish versus Stockfish, and yeah, they'll draw it, but this isn't easy. Or it's already hard being a pawn down, but doubled pawn as well. Difficult. Now, really, after Geary has been worse pretty much the entire game, it's on him to play for the win. H5 is a tricky idea. Only move was King H3. Again, this is all endgame, you know, niches and novelties. It's so difficult to try and work out. Zhu Wenjun goes G5. FG5 was the best response, but we get Rook D2 first. King F3. Check. Back. Now he goes FG5. Zhu Wenjun assumes she can take the pawn back. G4 she can't. This is very instructive actually. So you've split the pawn structure here. G4 just immobilizes white's pawns. You can't just draw this with a rook and a king. It's not enough. You need your pawns to be connected. You know, together they're strong. G4 just shuts all that down. You're not getting a lick now. So rook e8. And now it's just a case of conversion from Geary. I mean, almost Magnesian style, you could argue. You know, mobilizes his rook to the right square, gets the pawn. Now he's just got to march on forward. It's a slow, slow process, avoiding constant checks. But Zhu Wenjun low on time. King F3 comes in. No more checks. Can't get in here because you take the final pawn. So say rook A3. Rook E3. This is the right configuration from Geary. Can't take and try and hold on. It's just not enough. Geary wriggles out a win after 80 agonizing moves. My God. So, in the Masters section, we had wins for Firouzja, Nepomniachtchi, Geary, and also Wei Yi did beat Donchenko as well. Now, if we flick over to the Challengers side, we had wins for... Oh, I stand corrected. There was actually the same amount of... There was 4 wins in each side. My bad, no more monkey analogy. There was wins for Hans Niemann, Santos Lataza, Saleh Salem, and Mendonca. So, round 1 over. Massive field of opponents as well. There's like 13 rounds of this thing. So we are in for the long haul here, folks. It's going to be a good one. So thank you all for watching, and tune in for the next rounds.